Roll me a story.
We open our scene on a large ship drifting through space. It's not quite a colony ship, but it is fairly large. Could hold probably a couple 10,000 people. It's quite big. This is one of the standard issue demon palace ships.
I guess that makes sense that it would be like a hollowed out moon then.
More specifically, well, it's not necessarily a moon, but it is pretty much
Big hollowed out rock.
it is constructed. It is a marvel of engineering, one might say. But as we zoom into the details aboard the ship, we can see the truth of its beauty as a number of people are working to repair and maintain sections of the ship against their will. This is, like many demon ships of its class, a slaver ship. In particular, we zoom into one cell. This cell is quite a bit cleaner than the rest. It is well maintained, well taken care of, mostly to the benefit of its occupant, who you may introduce now.
Okay, Voal is a relatively, I would say, close to like lanky-ish individual. He's not like stick thin. This being a slaver ship and him being who he is, he has to maintain some level of fitness, or it will be maintained for him through the fact that he's doing manual labor consistently. He is clean shaven, but with some like short-ish cut hair, just enough that he can kind of style it a little bit if he wanted to, but given recent events and times, he kind of doesn't. It's very unkempt and messy. Like all demons, he's got the red hair going on, pale skin. I forget, do demons have golden eyes? I feel like I mentioned this at one point during character creation.
They have warm colored eyes,
Yeah.
yes.
So his are kind of like an almost burnt gold kind of color to a degree.
Like coppery?
Sort of. Somewhere in between copper and like a rose gold-ish kind of color, only without as much red to it. It doesn't look quite as purple.
Currently, he is being held at one wall of the cell. Latest disobediences are being taken out on him. Let's say his arms are chained up to the ceiling, sort of spread out a little bit and keeping him pulled up onto his toes. It's probably been that way for maybe about an hour or so.
Oof. Okay. His wrists are definitely feeling it.
Voal has been assigned the task of being a breaker. So let's zoom back in time for a second to the moment that Voal receives his first task. More than likely, he would have known better than to argue with the matron of the ship, Nafula, who is a maternal figure to him at this point, although not necessarily a good one. Nafula would have given him the instruction of breaking in one of the new slaves. And so we find him walking into the cell of a girl, probably a little younger than he is. She's currently huddled into the corner of the room, hiding from him behind the cot. What did Voal do in this situation?
Voal is always kind of... He's been willing to go along with, when he's been given tasks to do labor. He'll grumble about it, but he kind of understands his place. But this is one of those things he's never understood the appeal of. It's always seemed like a thing that it's like, hey, you're a breaker now. You get to have fun with those that are considered beneath you now that you've moved up the ladder. And it's one of those things I think he's known that he's been fast-tracked for, and that he's always been dreading, really. So in this instance, he's walking in there and he's been trying to psych himself up to do what he's been told to do what needs to be done. And the end result is he is standing there staring at this girl huddling in the corner, hiding behind this cot, and just going, no, I do not want to do this.
And so he makes this decision fully aware of what the consequences are aboard one of the Demon Palace ships. Demon society is structured in such a way that you either break or you are broken.
Yeah, and in this instance, Wall is fully aware of the fact that is the choice that he's making, and is also aware that he's in a bit of an odd spot, given his parentage, given that he's been fast-tracked through this. Part of this is a bit of a gamble, but also it's a gamble he's okay with losing. Part of this is him gambling on the fact that due to his parentage and due to who his father is, that maybe they'll let him off a little easier. That'll get a little bit more leeway, or that he won't be broken quite as much.
Which brings us back to present day.
Yeah.
Where Wall is chained to the wall. He has been beaten quite badly. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, the cell door opens and a silhouette stands in the doorway. It is not necessarily a familiar silhouette. It is one that is larger than him. The figure in the doorway is imposing. They bring with them a presence. How does Wall respond to this?
He doesn't. His response is he's still staring at the floor. He knows that whoever this is big and strong and powerful, and he could be defiant, and part of him probably wants to be defiant in the face of this, but there's that little voice in the back of his head telling him that if he managed to hold back some of his natural defensiveness, and if he sits there and plays it calm, he can see where this goes and potentially get out of this a little less worse than he would have been otherwise.
Okay. So Wall doesn't respond to the entrance of the figure to his room, and as the figure steps out of the light of the hallway and into the light of the dim, bare bulb affixed to the ceiling of the cell, he could see a now familiar face. This is the face of Aim, his father. Now, Vual's relationship with his father has not been a close one.
It's been strained.
I imagine that in the many years that Vual has been alive, he's probably interacted with Aim maybe once or twice, and is primarily aware of him through his reputation. The devil of the hunt.
Vual is going to look up at Aim slowly and not say anything. He's still in that mode of just like trying to gauge the situation, trying to read motives, intent, what direction this is going to head. He's not sure yet, so he's going to look up and try and be as neutral as possible.
Aim walks up to you with a stoic expression. He towers over you in this moment, taking a dominant posture, almost. And then he seems to soften a little bit. You know what? Give me a roll. Give me a mind roll. So that's going to be 2d6.
8.
Okay. What are you adding to that?
What do I add to
You
that?
add 6 to that.
Oh, I add my mind stat to that?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So that would be 14 total.
14, yes. He looks upon you, and you see in his eyes a sense of almost guilt, surprisingly enough. He reaches into his coat, presumably to draw a knife or some other weapon to strike you. And as he takes his hand out of his coat, you see instead he has a small notebook.
Voil looks visibly confused at this, but doesn't say anything. He just kind of looks at the notebook and cocks his head a little bit.
Aim will tuck the notebook into one of your pockets gently, carefully. One of the what is effectively rags that you're wearing. Just make sure that it's secure in your pocket, and just leave it there. And he'll reach into his coat again, and he will produce a key. And he says, "I want you to wait 1 hour, and then the escape pods will be open for you. I want you to run."
She's going to kill you for this. You know that, right?
I don't care.
Okay. Thank you.
And Aim will unlock the shackle on Voil's right hand, and then place the key into his hand, and then turn and walk away. He closes the cell door behind him, and there is silence.
Is there anybody else watching the cell currently?
Go ahead and give me a perception roll. So that's going to be mind, and I believe you do have heightened awareness for that.
I do.
So that's going to be...
Is that 3d6 drop lowest?
Nope, it's an additional +4.
Oh, okay. So that's still 2d6. I'm really glad I have that. So that's 3 on the dice, +4 is 7, plus my mind stat.
6. Yep.
So that's 13.
Okay. Yeah, you can't see anyone from here. You've been in this cell for long enough that you have probably memorized the guards' walking patterns. And, you know, from where you're standing, you don't see or hear anyone.
Okay. There's always the possibility that someone could be watching, but at this point, I'm sure enough that not everyone is watching enough. There's also the fact that Voil also has in the back of his head, like, hey, if Aim just came here to see me, it's likely that everyone's keeping an eye on him rather than me. So he is going to turn around so he's not facing the front of the cell, and he is going to... is there like I don't know if there's like a bathroom or something like that attached to this cell? I assume there's something like that, or is it...
I mean, it's very dehumanizing.
Okay.
There's probably like a very visible toilet, sort of like a prison cell, if you've ever seen one of those.
Gotcha. Okay, in which case, what he's going to do is he's going to sit down on the edge of the bed instead and turn to face away from the cell and carefully pull the notebook out and just flip through it, see what Aim dropped to him.
Yeah, so it is a handwritten compendium, more or less, of a lot of different things that exist out in the universe. You can use it to look things up, should you come to, but there are a lot of entries in it right now, which is GM code for you need to know what you're looking up in this book first.
Okay. Is there a section on... Well, probably not. I was going to say there's a section on like dreams or something like that in here that he could look at. just because he knows that like magic is a thing that exists, and he's been wondering lately if someone's been getting into his head via his dreams, what with the visions he's been having recently. Is there anything you can immediately find through a quick flip through that, or no?
There's nothing under entries about dreams specifically. Um, he might need more information to work with.
Okay. In which case he will tuck it underneath his mattress.
Oh, you said he's gone over to the cot. Has he unlocked his other arm?
Yeah, at this point, I'd assume he's
Okay.
unlocked his other arm. Does he only have one set of clothes? I imagine he only does have one set of clothes.
Yes.
Okay.
He's only got the rags that he's wearing right now.
Okay. I will have. Okay, so Vol's going to tuck the notebook underneath his mattress. And I assume there's like kind of a means, like it's probably out in the open, but there's a means for him to like wash up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing he's going to do, given that he's very like beaten and bloody and whatnot, even if it's just like an open shower or something like that, is the first thing he's going to do is he's going to try and clean himself up a bit and try and wash some of the blood out of his clothes before kind of using a little bit of his fire magic a little bit to kind of get them dry real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, the shower and the cleaning of your clothes goes easily. Nafula did order only blunt force trauma this time. Something which you are thankful for at the very least.
I imagine Voil has had experiences with what else is allowed, and it's been something he does not like. He'd rather take the beatings than the other form of punishment. At least with beatings, he gets to keep what he feels like has left of his dignity. Okay, he's going to grab the notebook again after he's got everything dry. And is his mandolin in here with him?
I'm going to say yes, he was allowed to keep that.
Okay. So that's tucked under the cot then probably. He's probably going to pull that out and just tune it, right? Make like he's just tuning it just to kind of try and relax while he's trying to figure out precisely what's going to happen in an hour's time. I'd imagine some time has already passed, but Aim said an hour.
Yeah.
And he's trying to keep an eye out for whatever the heck's going to happen in that hour.
I imagine the shower took quite a substantial amount of time.
If he's also washing blood out, then yeah. Probably took at minimum half an hour, probably close to like 40 minutes. So he's got like 20 or so by the time he's set to go, give or take, maybe, is what I'd posit.
Is there anything else that you want to check in your cell, in your room? Anything that you want to make sure of? Any other trinkets that you want to make sure you grab?
I don't think he has terribly much at this point.
No, he wouldn't have fashioned a weapon.
Well, okay, that being the exception. In terms of trinkets, he's probably got basically a knife of sorts that he's basically carved and maybe not forged, but shaped using some fire magic and a lot of patience to get him basically a little knife inside what's basically like a cloth sheath of some kind. I imagine that's probably tucked near like his boots over in the corner. He's probably waiting to go for that until whatever this is happening. Once he gets to like 5 minutes before things are about to go down, he'll probably put on his boots and he'll take the knife out of the inside of his boot with its little sheath and just like tuck it up against, tie it probably around his waist or in his pocket or something like that, tucked away.
Yeah. How well does Voil know the layout of the palace ship?
That's a very good question. On one hand, again, he's very privileged, and he's not gotten thrown into cells a lot up until he started basically misbehaving by refusing to do the really mean, undignifying bits to other people. So he probably knows it somewhat well, and he's at least timed the patrols of the guards before, because he's been fashioning this knife, essentially this little dagger of sorts, for a while now. It's not been like a thing he's been able to make over the course of a week. It's probably taken him about 2 months. So he's probably mapped that out so that he can make sure that everything is solid. I can imagine he has a decent knowledge of it, but it's not perfect. It's one of those things where Aim said the escape pods will be ready, and he's like, I vaguely know where that is. He's of that mindset of like, okay, if something big goes down soon, then I will have to be confident in my ability to figure it out on the fly a little bit. I will head in a general direction and hope I make it there.
Yes, I'm going to give you, for this only, this is not going to count as a full attribute for this. This is going to be just a temporary thing that you get. I'm going to give you a skill group trained in the skill group. It is going to be 0 points per level because it is,
temporary.
It is temporary, and it will only apply to the layout of this palace ship. Should you ever find yourself back here again, then I will have to make you take it as an actual attribute. Now, hopefully, we can avoid that.
Fingers crossed.
So, it doesn't specify any rules with this for skill groups, so I'm just going to give you a +2. Actually, based on the other rules, I'm going to give you a +4.
Okay. I won't complain about more numbers. More numbers is good. More bigger numbers is the more gooder.
You did complain about more numbers earlier.
Well, to a degree.
And I had to carefully remind you that no, I'm actually decreasing your character point total.
Look, the character building side of this was complicated.
It is the most complicated thing about playing this game.
Indeed. Anyways, okay, so Voil has a semblance of knowing how to navigate this ship, essentially.
Yeah. An hour passes, and just as Voil is putting on his boots, the emergency lights turn on, and the wail of the ship's blaring sirens echo through the halls. One by one, starting at the end of the hall, you hear the cell doors slam open automatically until they get to yours. And the other prisoners stampede out of their cells and down the halls.
Okay.
Do you join them?
Vol's actually going to wait for a minute and let some of them go by. He's going to keep an eye on the prisoners to see if he can find the girl that he was sent to break earlier, if she's among them or not.
Okay. Yeah, give me... okay, so this is a very confusing situation with a lot of people running past the entrance to your door. You are not stepping out into the hall. So, give me a mind roll. This is going to be a mind roll at a challenging level, so that is going to be an 18. 18.
Hang on. If I have heightened awareness 2, I do not make that. I had that as a 16.
Okay. Yeah, the thunder of footsteps passes by the cell doors. You can't quite pick out any particular faces in the crowd through your narrow cell window into the hallway. Any faces that you could pick out are whipped past too fast, either carried away by the crowd or themselves rushing to the promise of freedom.
Yeah. Once the initial rush passes, right, the wall's going to finishes tying his boots as they go by, reach down, grab his mandolin with its strap and kind of sling it over his shoulder, and carefully make his way out into the hallway and try and make his way down there. Again, he's looking for this same girl from earlier to see if she's in her cell anywhere, or has been left behind, injured, anything like that.
The cells, as you pass them, are empty. However, up ahead, you hear shouting voices. Give me a just flat roll with the +4 bonus from the skill group of knowing the layout of the palace ship.
That's a 10.
Okay. Yeah, you don't remember anything in particular. So you can hear shouting voices. It seems like some of the conflict has started in this direction, the way that everyone else was running. Do you press on or do you head back?
Can I see any of what the conflict is ahead of me?
It's up and sort of like the hallway sort of curves up in front of you. And then from there you can't see past that. But nobody's left in the hallway where you are.
Gotcha.
Point. You let them all run past. And the shouting is a fair distance away.
Does it sound like conflict between like the escaped prisoners and the guards, like the escaped slaves?
This is a sound that you would be all too familiar with. Every time there is a prison break, there is conflict.
Okay.
But yes, it sounds like a fight.
Okay.
However, it is a much bigger one than you have heard in the past.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Okay, I don't want to run headfirst into that. Running headfirst into that is probably a bad idea. It's an easy way to get injured and possibly killed. Heritage be damned. Let's see. What about... This is a risky move, and Vlal's going to kind of know this is a risky move. This is going to be another one of those things where like he's like, okay, this is a bit of a gamble. And this is one he'd rather not lose, but it's one he thinks might pay off. Because he's been down here before, I think. There's the section where they throw extra troublesome prisoners to be broken in, to be disciplined in certain ways. He's gonna try and go around that way to see if anyone's still in there, and B, because he suspects that there's probably not going to be many of the harsher demons in that space if everything has suddenly been just released.
Yeah.
It might be a way for him to work around that anyone else might not go.
Yeah, you know roughly where the position of the
stockades and stuff.
Escape pods are, and you know that this path down here, the walk of punishment or whatever they call it. We'll say they call it that, is more or less a loop around the bottom of the ship. So you can head around the long way, and there might be some more conflict at the other end, or it might be quiet at the other end. That is certainly a risk, and it will certainly be a longer path, but you head down that way. The long way is a lot of stuff that you are familiar with. A lot of empty torture devices. You pass the row of stockades, among other things. There are more cells this way, however, all of them are empty. There is a lack of sound, a lack of life this way, aside from the blaring of the ship's emergency alarm. And as you pass up on the other side, there's another ramp up the hallway. You can see some, spatters of blood on the walls. It seems like there was very much a conflict here, but because you've taken the long way around, a lot of the conflict seems to have dissipated or already resolved by the time that you got here.
All right.
And you can go up there pretty freely if you want to.
Vwal is going to carefully make his way up this ramp as quietly as possible and try and get a layout of what he's walking into.
Yeah, okay. As you head up the ramp, there is a sort of large domed room that is sort of an antechamber to lead down to the punishment walk. And it comes back to you that there is one on the other side of this long looping hallway as well. which is probably where most of the conflict was. However, as you can see, most of the conflict now has been resolved. In fact, what damage has been done, and there are bodies just been shoved aside and kicked aside. Some of them former slaves that have been potentially trampled by others in the mess to get up and out. Some of them have been some of the breakers that have been attacked with startling ferocity, although you suppose not unwarranted.
No.
Do you take the time to check and see if there are any survivors?
Yeah, I want to check and see if there are any survivors. And again, I'm still on the lookout for that one girl from earlier.
Okay.
If I can find her, if I can see her.
I'm going to ask you to give me a mind check. Heightened awareness will not apply to this because you are searching through a bunch of still warm bodies, trying to decide which ones are living and which ones are
I'm
not.
I thought I rolled 2 1s there, and I was like, no, these are the double 6s. Actually, the dice I'm using, I'll post pictures of these later. But I got like the fancy poker chip 6s on these ones. So that's 12, 18. It's a maxed out roll.
Okay.
First crit of the session. First crit of the campaign.
Yeah, there's not really crits in Besem.
Close enough. I'm calling it a crit because I want to call it a crit. I want it to be a crit. Damn it, make it a crit.
Yeah. Okay. There are a couple bodies that are still breathing, that are nearly unconscious. You don't know if you have the medical skill necessary to revive them, and you almost certainly don't have the time. Who knows when this lockdown is going to end or lock up? On lockdown.
Do I recognize any of them? Do I see this? Do I see is the girl here? No?
The girl is not here. Do you recognize a handful of them as fellow slaves? There's one that you worked on some of the hull repairs with at one point. You don't know any of them by name, though.
Okay. How many of them are there that I can see they're still breathing? Is this like a handful? Is this 3 or 4? How close am I to the escape pods?
You're pretty far away.
Fuck. Shit. Okay. I'm gonna grab the dude. You said I recognized one of the guys. Like I'd worked with him on something at one point.
Yeah, on one of the hull repairs.
All right. Voile is going to try and like basically get underneath him and lift him like up over his shoulders, right? To like support him.
Give me a body roll.
6 + 4 is 10 total.
So with an average target of 12, you can lift him, but you are not able to carry him that far. You're still pretty weak from the beatings.
Shoot, I didn't think about that. Okay. Yeah, all right. Voil's gonna drop him. Rather than go like back towards where like the cells are, right? He's going to move forward and try and see if there's anybody there still like running out.
You continue to press on with the goal of trying to find some people. Eventually the two atriums do lead to different hallways that do end up connecting up, that lead into more of the main body of the ship. When you get to that point, you do pass a couple of other slaves, but they are in too much of a hurry to give you much mind.
Okay. Voil's just gonna look around and realize that this is unfortunately probably hopeless, and there's that moment where just kind of guilt seizes him a little bit, and it just turns and looks back at the hallway behind him and just goes, "I'm sorry, I tried." And he's gonna turn and not necessarily book it because again, he doesn't want to end up trampled, but he is going to start making his way towards the escape pods. He's still keeping an eye out for that girl. He wants to He wants to at least know that maybe she's also able to get out, or at least see if he can help her get out if he comes across her.
It seems like letting the other slaves go ahead of you was, at the very least, a decent call for making time. And when you do get to the Bay of Escape Pods, you see that many of them have taken off already. There is a group of slaves. The girl is among them, sitting there at an escape pod door, just trying to like wrench it open. And the girl sees you and is like, "Hey, do you know how to get this thing open?"
No, but I can try. I will run over and give a look at it.
Okay.
The first thing I'm going to note is the pod door. I mean,
so this escape pod is, it's a big like airlock door set into the wall, very big, very heavy, like an elevator door. A couple of the slaves are just sort of fighting to try to pull it open frantically, but they're not having much luck. It is, in fact, hermetically sealed. But you notice that beside the door is a sort of biometric scanner. It's like one of those handprint things. One of the slaves is standing next to it and is just like, "Do you think maybe we should, like, get one of the breaker's hands to open this?"
I'm going to place... Val's going to have one of those moments like, oh, wait a minute, hang on a minute. I wonder, and is going to place his hand on the scanner.
There is a beep, and something mechanical whirs, and the door slides open. All of the 2 or 3 slaves that were trying to pull it open just sort of jump back in surprise. Go, "Ah!" And the escape pod is now open. There's room for about 6 people, which there are about 6 of you. 3 at the door, then the one who was looking at the keypad, the girl, and yourself.
Okay. Vol's just doing, okay, quick, in. Everybody get in. There's just enough room for us. Let's get in.
Okay. Everybody piles in to the escape pod.
Is there only one escape pod left?
Yes, this is the only escape pod.
Vol is going to like hesitate before climbing in himself and closing the door behind him, and then trying to figure out how to launch the darn thing.
Give me a mind roll with a minor obstacle, because you've never interacted with controls like these. So let's see if you can figure them out.
I was going to say, would the codex have anything on this?
No, the codex is more about events and creatures and
I understand.
Places and different things that one might experience on their travel. Things that exist out in the universe that you might come across that you probably will want knowledge on, but don't have.
Gotcha. Well, I rolled a 17. If we're adding, okay. Wait, hang on. I don't know what the minor obstacle does, because I've got
minor obstacle is essentially light disadvantage. You roll 3 dice, and drop the highest.
Okay, never mind. I rolled a 13.
Okay, no, that's still an average. That still beats an average success. So you are. I'm going to say that it's a particularly unskilled success, though. You're just kind of mashing buttons at the controls until eventually the girl comes up behind you and is like, "Hurry up! What are you doing?"
I've not flown one of these before.
And at some point, you hit a button and the door closes behind you, and you hear the engines start to spin up, and the escape pod rockets off away from the palace ship that you have lived your entire life on.
Wall is just like trying not to scream in an undignified manner.
Give me a roll for that.
Oh no.
That's gonna be a I'm gonna make that a body roll.
Okay. That is a 12 exactly.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. You managed to hold it together.
Okay.
You do, in fact, manage to hold it together. You do not scream most undignifiedly.
Voal doesn't manage to embarrass himself any further. Okay, so at this point, I mean, the problem is at this point, Voal has no idea where he's going. He's gonna turn back to like the rest of them and just kind of look everyone over. Who's in the current party? It's him, it's the girl from earlier, and it's just four other different slaves.
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't matter too much right now.
Okay.
Um,
GM speak for do not try and ask me to make up these NPCs. They are not important.
they are going. They might come back up again later on in the future when I've had time to make them up. But as for right now, they're just traumatized ex-slaves.
Very,
and they don't
very fair.
They don't matter.
Yeah.
I would even go so far as to say even the girl doesn't matter right now.
Oof, wow. Okay. He's gonna like look at all of them and just be like, where do we go from here? Did anybody have a plan on where we're supposed to go, or is the plan to just go?
There's silence for a few minutes. Nobody's really sure what to say or what to do. Is that no one's really expected this moment to come, even as the cell doors opened and they were running for the escape pods. You could tell looking them over that no one really expected to make it this far.
Yeah, this is the like.
No one really planned this far ahead.
They didn't expect they would get this far, and there's very much a like, okay, now what kind of thing going on. Voal is going to kind of try and quash some of that himself and turn around since he's currently in the pilot seat, and just be like, okay, where's navigation? There's clearly got to be navigation. This is also a ship, right? Where's the navigation thingy so we can try and get the hell out of here, so we can get someplace. Where's the nearest place we can try and head to?
Give me another mind roll with light difficulty to try to figure out how to navigate this ship. You got it started pretty easy.
This time, those were snake eyes, so that's an 8.
Oh boy. Yeah, so you have absolutely no
Zero
idea.
Clue.
You're just kind of staring at the control panel awkwardly, like, how do I? Well, okay, but like if I push this button, then we might stop. And
after a bit, Voal just like is like, okay, nope. He gets up, he walks over to the girl, right, and just like, I don't know if is she like sitting down or is she standing behind him.
She's she's sitting down.
Okay,
she's like sort of with the others.
He's gonna like walk over and just like put his hands on her shoulders and get her to stand up, turn her around, walk her over to the pilot seat and sit her down and just be like, you're in charge now because I have no idea what I'm doing. And he will sit down in her seat.
Okay. All right.
I cannot find navigation on that thing, and it's time someone else has a seat in a turn in the pilot seat.
After about 5 minutes in the pilot seat, you're just done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again.
Oh boy, this whole campaign for you is going to be really interesting.
This is what happens when you roll snake eyes to try and navigate to safety. That said, his immediate response is going to be, when he sits down, is going to be to pull the notebook out again. And he's still going to try and go through it a little bit just to see if there's anything around here, if it describes any kind of nearby worlds, any kind of nearby stations. He's aware that there are space stations out there, he thinks. And
are you?
Maybe?
Would you know that?
I don't know. He might suspect it, potentially. He does live on a giant, like, what would be a generational ship. So, yeah, like, the idea of there being stations isn't that crazy. And so he's just going to try and figure out what's out there to try and navigate towards. If anyone has any questions.
Slightly more accurately, it's not necessarily a generational ship. It is more a spacebound palace.
Fair.
So you give some time reading over the handwritten notebook that I gave you. Give me actually no, because you have like probably a couple hours to kill. Just give me a flat roll.
That's an 8. That's a 2 and a 6 on the die.
2 and a 6 plus your 6 in mind is going to be.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a flat mind roll. I thought you said a flat roll and it wasn't a mind roll.
I did, but then I changed.
You changed your mind? Okay, that's a 12.
That's a 12. Okay. Yeah. So you're flipping pages and you come across one page in particular, just with the header of the Trident in your father's handwriting. You don't necessarily recognize it as your father's handwriting, though it is. It says, the Trident are a mostly nomadic race, oftentimes settling in large space stations situated within nebula where there is great electrical activity. You can find them peppered throughout the universe and go long enough in one direction and you're bound to run into one. So that is the page that you read. There's some other information about, how mercantile they can be at times.
Yes, the merchant race.
How they are monotheistic, as opposed to the rest of the universe being usually polytheistic.
That's interesting. There's that moment where he's like, "What does that mean? There are gods? That's a thing." Well, okay, correction. He probably knows there are gods. He suspects there are gods. He just doesn't have.
He would know there are gods. There would be a shrine on the ship. He probably would have been allowed to access it in his younger days before he became a troublemaker.
But yeah,
quote unquote troublemaker. But probably never had any interest or reason to do so, and so never really explored the idea.
Okay, so yeah, he has that moment where he's like, "Oh yeah, gods are a thing." I vaguely remember that from when I was like 8. There's the nearest place is probably one of these stations, because if they're nomads, they're going to be all over the place in theory.
All over the place. Yep.
So he's gonna mention to the girl in the pilot seat. He's gonna be like, "Hey, the Tridan, these guys." Is just gonna hold up the book, pointing at the page, and be like, "They apparently have stations all over the place because they're nomads. We should head there first and see if we can, I don't know, ask them for passage elsewhere."
Where did you get that?
My dad, my father. I don't want to call him my dad. My father. My father gave this to me shortly before the prison break happened.
Did your father make it out?
I don't know, and I hope so, but I'm not sure.
Oh, well,
it's complicated. I don't want to dwell on it too much.
Sorry.
Let's focus on getting us to safety.
Right. Safety. Or so these Trident. We're just holding out hope that we're gonna run across one of these places, I guess.
Maybe. Here, you know what? If you keep us flying in a general direction and make sure we don't hit any stars, I will have a look and see if I can find some sort of like navigate. There's got to be a navigation system in here somewhere, right? Vlal's gonna like renew his search for a navigation system near the cockpit. So
a couple hours have passed. Like the adrenaline's sort of worn off at this point from the escape, and a couple of the other prisoners have even just straight up passed out. This escape pod is not meant for long-term travel, and so there's no real amenities. There's no bathroom. There's no sleeping quarters. There's like a couple changes of clothes that you can wear, like tucked in some of the cubby holes, and so at some point in the past, you've all like changed out of your rags and into something slightly less, dingy.
Yeah, there's that moment where I think, on one hand, because we're in outside context, things feel a bit odd, like stripping down in front of strangers, but at the same time, it's one of those things where, given the society we just came from, that we just theoretically got away from, we're like, okay, we've all seen it before. So we're just going to act like this is all normal and get changed quickly and then move on and not talk about it or think about it again.
Yeah, no. Keeping prisoners naked is a form of dehumanization, and one that you've seen many, many times before at this point.
Would it have happened to Wall at some point? I feel like maybe it might have. He causes enough.
Almost
Yeah,
definitely.
it's been a thing he's had to deal with at least once.
And it's worth noting that despite being effectively her son, Nafula seemed to single you out as a target.
Not like me. I think I have a suspicion as to why.
I will say it's not even that she didn't like you. It was that she enjoyed picking on you more than she did on others. Like, she singled you out as a specific target. But we'll get to that.
I have a sneaking suspicion as to why.
But yeah, no. So it's been a couple of hours. At this point, like 2/3 of your crew is probably even passed out.
Yeah.
Just because adrenaline's gone. You guys are tired. You guys are more than likely sleep deprived, hungry.
I think Wall at this point is probably, rather than being on the rather than reading the codex again, he is instead has probably put that away after about an hour or two, and has just started noodling away on his mandolin, just because it's something, and it's probably hopefully going to help calm everybody down, or at least give them some kind of distraction if it isn't something they enjoy. So
yeah, I mean, for the most part, most of you are asleep. Like I said, 2/3 of your crew is asleep at this point.
Fair enough. So I'll try and keep his playing down a little bit.
Including the girl. She is also asleep. It's just the one guy that's
okay.
That was at the door, who is trying to open it, who suggested cutting off one of the breaker's hands to open it. That guy. And you are the only ones who are awake right now. So it's just you two, your gentle mandolin playing, and the hum of the engines of the ship. It's come to a point where the escape pod, it's not like immediate that it's going to run out of fuel.
Okay.
But it's getting to the point where you're maybe starting to be concerned about running out of fuel in the near future.
Gotcha.
And as you're playing, you still haven't really figured out like any set of coordinates or anything. Like, that's not something that's written in the codex, and that's not something that any of you really have expertise with. Like, none of you know where you're coming from or where you're going to. It's possible that some of you might have had stories from before you were slaves.
Okay.
You don't, personally, but some of the others might. But either way, regardless, part of the imprisonment of one of the Demon Palace ships is that it can move. And because it can move, you could be anywhere in the universe.
And we'd have no idea.
No idea how to get to anywhere from there. So you've just kind of been firing the engines of the escape pod in roughly a straight direction. As you are, sort of noodling about on your mandolin, sort of starting to think about the fuel consumption of the escape pod, give me a perception check. So you do have the +4 to that from heightened awareness. And that's going to be a mind roll. So you're going to have a +10.
That's okay. That is 16.
Okay, 16 versus a target of 9. That definitely makes it. Yeah, so you...
Do I spot something out in the dark vacuum of space?
Well, actually, space is not actually all that dark for right now. It's actually very bright. Because way out here, you can see all of the stars. It's probably something that you've seen now for, like, the very first time in your life. But at this point, like, the novelty of that has...
worn off after the first, like, hour, yeah.
After the first, like, hour or so. And the worry sets in about where you're going. However, it's now at the point where you've been traveling for about 2 hours, your crew is mostly asleep, and you spot out of the windshield, this just big, sort of like jellyfish-shaped
thing.
And, it might be... At first you think it might be another ship. But you get closer to it, and it's clear that this is several orders of magnitude larger than the ship that you just came.
Oh boy. Okay, so where I joked about it being a moon, it's now a moon, except constructed and a jellyfish. And
if the ship that you came from is a palace, this is a city.
Okay. Yeah, Vol stops like his mandolin playing and just stares at it for a minute before jostling, somewhat gently after a minute, trying to jostle the girl in the pilot seat awake and be like, hey, look, see that. Whatever that is, we want to go towards that.
Okay.
That's something habitable.
And she just sort of punches some stuff into the controls. Okay. So it's probably another 15 minutes before you start pulling up to the station.
Okay.
After you get close enough, the ship itself kind of takes over. You see a readout on the dashboard. Display the words, "Port detected. Autopilot engaging landing sequence."
Vol's gonna just like heave a huge sigh and just like, oh, thank the gods. None of us have to pilot this thing. It'll just dock itself. Okay, that's good.
So, it's another probably 10 minutes as the ship slows down into taking its place on the docks. The rest of you sort of look at each other and just breathe a sigh of relief. There is a moment of camaraderie between you as you realize, hey,
we're free.
No, you've touched solid ground. The closest thing to solid ground that we can find.
We made it.
You guys made it. And then everyone sort of says their goodbyes and they go their separate ways.
Wall's actually gonna be like, hey, wait, no, some of you guys should stick together, right? Form groups of like 2 or 3. You're better off in numbers than isolated. Isolated, they'll be able to hunt you down. So stick to like, I don't know. Even the group of 5, it might not be a bad idea, but stick to at least groups of 2, and a group of 2 and a group of 3, and I'll head off on my own because I don't think anybody wants to be stuck with me. They're going to be hunting me more than they're going to be hunting you, but stick together and you'll make it farther, I think.
At this point, the girl is just going to turn to you and is like, I think most of us were probably just going to try to find something here on this station. You're not going to stick around here?
Due to who my parents are, they are going to be coming after me. So unfortunately, I think me staying here puts the rest of you and possibly this station at risk. But also, I've had... I haven't admitted this out loud to anyone yet, but I've had visions lately of the sky and what I think is the ocean, or an ocean, maybe. An impossibly vast body of water, deep and dark, and the surface shimmering with waves. The water becomes blue as it kind of starts to spray into the air and become white and sparkling in the sun. We're getting kicked up by storms. This has been consistent, and I think I need to figure out what's the meaning behind those. They're too consistent for them to be just dreams. So, regardless, unfortunately, I would be putting you at risk, but also I have to figure out what this means for myself, which means, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to stay here. Space stations, I don't think, are known for their oceans and their skies, given that they are built in space. So I'm going to try and chart a ship to the nearest world and see if that can help. I'll have to do some digging, but you all are safer connected with each other than disconnected. So even if you do settle here, make sure that you're consistently checking in on one another, because if they find one of you and you're disconnected, they can probably hunt the rest of you. But if one of you goes missing, the rest of you know, the rest of you can at least go to ground. Your odds are better connected than disconnected. Just keep that in mind.
If you say so, but the girl just kind of shuffles awkwardly for a little minute before she looks up at you again and goes, well, thank you, at least, for everything.
I'm not sure I'm the one to thank, but yeah, I'm glad you made it off the ship. Good luck, and maybe someday we'll see each other again at some point. And Fall's gonna turn and start making his way, not necessarily sprinting down the street, but definitely trying to make his way quickly down the street.
This has been The Stars Aflame, an actual play podcast using Besom 4th edition. As a part of the show, Roll Me a Story. Voal has been played by Liam Freewald, and the world and the people around him are played by me, Charles Payne. If you like the show, please give it a review and share it with someone you think will also enjoy. If you want to support the show, you can find the soundtrack available for purchase at backspinzx.bandcamp.com or on our Patreon, along with other behind-the-scenes content. Our socials are linked below if you want to join in on the conversation. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.